Today I went out with this $3,800 in my hand, planning to buy at least one vehicle. The first stop turned out to be someone who was trying to cheat me out of my money. The second stop turned out to be somebody who could confirm that the first one was trying to cheat me out of my money. So I wound up back with the same $3,800 in my hand and no new vehicles, which is probably the best case scenario in this case. Today we're going to talk about how you can tell when somebody is trying to cheat you. Good information to have. If you buy and sell vehicles for a profit, or you want to, you're in the right place. This is the Flipping Genius podcast. Our number one goal is to help our listeners make more money. Every episode, we share information, ideas, and experiences of real-life car flippers. I'm Randy Lee. I'm the host of Flipping Genius. I've flipped cars most of my life. For over a dozen years now, I've been a licensed dealer. I am working to build the best podcast about successfully flipping cars for a consistent profit. Let's get to it, flippers. I had a chance to buy what looked like a pretty good vehicle. And as I've talked lately, buying has been difficult because it seems like everybody's overpaying still for vehicles, at least in my view. So I got a call from somebody who had responded to one of my bandit signs, and it turns out somebody I already had in my records from a previous conversation. And so I went out this morning with the intent of buying her vehicle, her personal vehicle, if everything checked out the way that she said it did. And conversation seemed to go pretty well. It looked about like what she had described it initially. I was checking the vehicle out like I always do. It was a Chevy Equinox, which is not my favorite vehicle. I've seen a lot of engine trouble. This one had about 176,000 miles on it. Body was in good shape. Interior looked pretty good. But let me tell you a couple clues that popped into my head, popped into my point of vision, I guess. As we walked around the car, which was in her garage, I noticed it had good tires. The body was in pretty good shape, other than the hood had some scratches on it from apparently laundry baskets. But in the back seat, I found 2 jugs of oil. That was good oil, the expensive stuff that I don't usually buy. One of them was half empty, and one of them was empty, and that always alerts me. Now, with 175,000 miles, it's possible that the vehicle would leak oil, but she said that she had that leak repaired a couple years before, and that she thought that oil was probably from an oil change from a year ago. Things started to not add up. The vehicle had been sitting in her garage for a few months while she drove other vehicles, and as she told me, the repairs that she had done, they added up to probably $2,000 or $3,000, and we had already negotiated on the phone down to $3,200 for the car, and I had planned to probably buy it for around $2,500 if possible. Anyway, she went on and on about all the repairs. The timing chain had been replaced. I believe a new battery, alternator, fuel pump, lots and lots of money, including new tires less than a year ago. A lot of money put into this thing, and I thought, boy, if everything's straight, like I'm hearing, this is going to be a good vehicle. But then I started it up, and when I started it up, I could hear what I thought sounded like poor lubrication in the engine. Now, I'm not a mechanic, and you guys know, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I do not claim to know anything other than Dennis Johnson and Dennis Johnson Auto Repair and Gary and the guys down there who protect me. So I knew I was not feeling comfortable with this one though. And like I said, I've seen Equinoxes before that have trouble. So I told her I told her the thing I've often told you: just tell the truth and you won't have to remember what you said, which my mom taught me. And I told her about my grocery store story. I mean, literally from her driveway, I could see the water tower that's above my car lot. Just happens to be there. It's not associated with my car lot directly. I could walk to my grocery store. Remember, I walk 7 miles a day, but my grocery store was just over a mile away. My house is just it was 2.1 miles to her house, and about I'm thinking around a half mile to my car lot. And so I told her, chances are you and I are going to see each other at the grocery store, or I'm going to see the people that I sell this thing to at the grocery store. So I'm going to tell you everything 100% honest right away, and I'm hoping you're doing the same thing with me. But I've got an issue with this car. I don't feel comfortable with it. But if you'll carry it over to Dennis and have him check it out, I want to buy it if he says it's good. But if I buy it from you right now, I'm going to try to steal it from you because I've got to cover the uh, the concerns that I have. I got to protect myself, and I really didn't want to buy it as a steal because then I knew that there was something wrong. So we shook hands on that deal, and she said that she was going to do that, and then Dennis would call me, and you know it could still happen. I could be wrong, but I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to happen in the next part of the story. Who was it? Somebody used to always say that. I can't remember what it is, and I'm probably too old, and you won't remember what it is. But there's somebody used to always say the rest of the story. So the rest of the story is this: she told me she had taken the vehicle to another mechanic that I know, who had done most of the work, some fairly significant work, and she told me that guy was going out of business, which was also news to me. So I thought, well, I'm gonna go talk to John. So I went down there, and John was in, and I was happy to see. Sad to see that he's going out of business, but good for him because he's got something new cooking with his racing business, and that's going to work out better. But in talking to John, I knew if he's going out of business, he may have something there for me to buy. So that's where we went with that right away. Uh, Started looking at a Mercury Grand Marquis that I was interested in, offered him some money. Came away empty-handed on that, at least for the time being, but might wind up going back and buying that if he changes his mind on the number. We couldn't get to my number. But in talking to John and one of his mechanics, I mentioned this other vehicle, and sure enough, as the conversation kind of flowed naturally, uh, his mechanic, who I'm certain knows more about cars than I do, agreed with my assessment that that vehicle may have a blown head gasket, which was one of my main concerns with the Chevy Equinox, is what I've seen before. So I suspect I won't be getting that phone call. If I do, fantastic, and I'll come back next week and tell you that I'm not as brilliant of a psychologist as I thought I was. But the fact is that this really very sweet, kind sounding and acting individual was trying her damnedest to cheat me out of my money. And had she sold that vehicle to me with the blown head gasket, it would have not turned out well for me. And I'm not going to pass that trouble on to somebody else. So I would have had to get that repaired. So that was a story that we had for today. And I want to break this down a little bit more in what kind of telltale signs that you can find in a conversation that will help you not get cheated. And then I want to talk about that situation with John and the negotiation there. What I did right, what I could have done better, and what you can do to get good deals to come your way and to walk away from the bad ones. All right, let's talk about telltale signs of deception. um, I'm going to try to talk about this in broader terms, but I'm going to use the situation at hand that I was talking about from. I'm sorry, but that was yesterday now. I jumped ahead a little bit, but the one where I was talking about the private owner trying to deceive me a bit about her vehicle. Um, First off, this is always a good rule. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is not true. When your phone rings and you're asking why you are being blessed with this opportunity, uh, then there's a good chance that there's something out there that's not uh, kosher. Now, now I don't think everybody is trying to deceive you. I mean, I had a call this afternoon. Another person called about another vehicle that they were trying to sell me, and they told me all the good stuff about the car, and then I needed to call them back because I had another deal working, and I said, "Can I give you a call back when I'm done with this?" And I did, and when I called back, the first thing I said, is what's wrong with the car? And they came right out and told me exactly what was wrong with the car, which in this case, it was a bad engine and a bad transmission, and it just needed to be junked. And they were straightforward. They weren't trying to hide anything. And actually, I personally think most people are more straightforward, but it's up to us to ask the questions. I mean, that is the key. You've got to ask the questions, and it's best for you to be cautious. And you've got to go with who you are. I go with my nature. My nature is generally to trust people until they prove that I shouldn't. So don't always assume that they're all lying to you. A lot of them will be to some extent, but not everybody. And listen for inconsistencies in their story. Um, Ask questions that allow you to be aware. Like when do you say this or that was done? When was this repair completed? And then pay attention to those answers. If you need to, take notes. Think of yourself almost as an attorney who is questioning a witness. I hate to be put it in such adversarial terms, but it's your money and it's your time, and you want to protect it. So, pay attention to their answers and do all the dates and the stories continue to match up. I'll tell you in the case of the Chevy Equinox that I was talking about, they did not, and they gradually were lining up. And if you haven't ever heard of Columbo, you might look up an old TV series called Columbo. My dad always loved to watch him, and the thing was the guy kind of played dumb. He would ask questions and then he'd kind of ask the question again, and he was gradually building evidence. And I guess that approach is probably the one I take. I don't ever brag about my genius. I do the opposite, and I think I'm being pretty honest. But I'm cautious. And I don't want to over build myself up. And by doing that, sometimes you will run across some people who will try to take advantage of you because they think that you're stupid. And I'm a lot of things, but I don't think I'm stupid. Sometimes I have been, but so you're looking to see if the dates match up. And in this case, also with this the Chevy, the question that I would have to ask is why would somebody spend $1,500 on a timing belt? It was a timing belt, by the way. I said chain before, but timing belt. Probably $700 or more on new tires just within probably 6 months. A new battery, probably another $800 in miscellaneous repairs that she told me about. and then turn around and, and we're talking about a 2013 with 175,000 miles on it, so the value is not terribly high, but then turn around after you spend all that money and you're telling me that it only needs another $200 repair, and you're not going to do that. You're just going to try to sell it to the guy with the bandit sign that says "I buy cars," or maybe the person that has a car lot around, or down the street. Why would somebody hold off on that $200 in favor of selling it to me or anybody like me for probably $2,300 under what Kelley Blue Book would say that private party fair price would be? It's possible, it is possible. And I ask those questions. I ask, why do you want to sell it? Why? And then, pay attention to their answer, and pay attention to the little things. I think, I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but one of the biggest clues to me is empty oil bottles and antifreeze bottles, either antifreeze bottles that are empty, or are full, or more likely full of water inside the car that have been saved, are being saved so that they can fill up the overheating car. That saved me on so many deals. I love it when I see those at the auction, because I know pretty much for sure what that is. And then of course, listen to the engine and watch their. I watch their responses to what I am doing. It's fascinating. People are fascinating. I love it when somebody is just straight up honest with me, and I'm going to try to be as fair with them as possible, because that is the truth. When somebody contacts me about a vehicle that they're trying to sell, they are trying to solve a problem, and one of the problems is that they don't want to have to sell it to the general public, or they don't feel comfortable doing that. So it's not all about trying to deceive you, but sometimes it is. And of course, look for trouble signs. In the case of so many cars, I find a lot of these Equinoxes and Cadillacs. Look for that white smoke coming out of the exhaust. Let it run for a little bit. You'll see it a lot of times. Look for that creamy residue under the oil cap. Signs of a blown head gasket. This is something that seems to come up this time of year more than other times, possibly because you're running the heat. I'm not sure. I'm not a mechanic, but I know I've seen it. I don't know how many times I have to say that. And like I said, but as you're checking out the car, listen to them and watch them. Sometimes they won't talk at all, because maybe they don't know, or probably they're trying to, keep the bad ideas to themselves, the bad problems to themselves. And then what I did this time, and what I recommend is if you can, and you're wondering what's wrong, you still haven't figured out what's wrong, you think there may be something wrong here, I give them an alternative that's going to expose their deceit, their lie. In my case, I simply offered to take it to my mechanic. I said, I asked them to take it to the mechanic, who is also the mechanic that had been referred to them by their former mechanic, who is going out of business. He said, take it down to Dennis Johnson. And of course, you hear me brag about Dennis and the guys down there. They're pretty well thought of in the area. And I just said, yeah, carry it down to Dennis, and if Dennis says it's straight, I'll buy it directly from there. You won't even have to retrieve it. We'll just get together. I'll give you the cash. You'll give me the title, and you don't even have to fix this $200 thing. If they say that's all that needs to be done, I'll pay for that too, and you'll be out of your garage, and the problem will be solved. And given what she's told me, I want to get it out of the garage. I just want it to be out of the way. I want to get a fair price for it. there'd be no logical reason to sell it for significantly less just to save a couple days when it's been sitting in the garage for months and months. And it's not, 10 degrees outside here. She said she didn't like to go outside in the cool weather, which, it was 65 degrees today, and it's October, late October in North Alabama. We don't get a lot of real cold weather, so there's not a lot of reason, even for your own personal comfort, to have to have this car out of the garage immediately. But it would have been out of the garage anyway in my formula, because it could have been down there when she could put her other car in the garage, and then we could have worked from there. So unless you're independently wealthy, you generally aren't going to make a decision that's going to cost you $1,000 or $2 just for convenience. Usually not, but not always. Time I can think back of a couple within the last year that I bought the vehicles, and I probably made $1,000 or $2 as soon as I left the driveway, because those vehicles were worth more than I was offering, and I knew that. But I had something in mind, and I was a little cautious about what could be. But it turned out in both those cases, the gentlemen that sold the vehicles to me were just trying to operate out of a point of convenience. So it's not always deceit. So that's that gives you an idea, I hope, of some strategy for dealing with people when you're in a purchasing mode. And the same thing, I think, goes when you're on the other side. But so listen and talk, and I just like to be straight with people so they feel comfortable with what they're hearing from me. We'll take another little break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about negotiation. So now we've got a vehicle. You got a vehicle that you're interested in. I'm going to jump past the Chevy that I was talking about, and I'm going to talk about a Mercury. When I went down to see John, the mechanic, and before we ever discussed the head gasket issue and things that I talked about a moment ago, I asked John, do you have anything here that you want to sell me? I've talked about this a lot to you, about going to see mechanics, going to see body shop folks, going to see other car dealers and saying, do you got anything that you would be interested in selling me? Because I'm always looking for cars. And in this case, John literally was closing down a mechanic shop that's been there for 20 years and turning it into a machine shop and doing something totally, or quite a bit different. He's going to be working on engines and dealing with mostly racing clients. Nothing to do with what we're talking about, except for the fact is that over the years, I've bought some cars from John, and I knew that he'd be a good person to possibly have something, and I knew he might have some information on that other thing. And right away, John said, yeah, I've got it was a 1999 Mercury Grand Marquis. A lot of you guys would say, why would you want that? Well, and a lot of you guys would say, I know why you'd want that. They're good vehicles, and they are in demand with some folks because they're looking for a full-size vehicle that the Grand Marquis is, and they've been good vehicles for a long time. This one had been a good vehicle for 23 years. It had 225,000 miles on it. It did not look bad, and with the jump, it started right up. It had a brand new alternator on it, but it had a draw someplace that was causing the battery to go dead, and the guys didn't know what it was, so that was something we were going to have to hunt down. The driver's seat, not surprisingly, was very worn out. The body did not look bad. It had pretty good tires on 3 of the 4, but the 4th one was available. One of the mechanics had borrowed it and put it on his Grand Marquis so he could take it for a drive, and he was going to throw it back on, so I had to have 4 good tires. Air conditioning worked on it. Heat worked. Everything worked on it. Good solid windshield. For a 1999, these are the things that are important. You're looking for a solid transportation. This thing's going to probably sell for maybe $2,200 at the most, I think. And you'll get the money out of it if you hold on to it. But that means you can't put too much in it. Plus now I've got the unknown of whatever the electrical issue is. So that was, let's just talk about that one, because that was the one that was on the table, and John said, you want to buy this. We went out, took a look at it, and um, I'll tell you how I did it and how I do it. I said, "What do you got to get for it, John?" And he said $800. Which is probably a fair price, and which I knew. It wasn't. I knew he didn't expect me to pay that. I could have, but I didn't think he expected it. I looked at it over a little bit, and we talked a little bit, and I asked some more. Does air conditioning work? And it surprisingly did, but the without the jump box, the thing didn't want to keep running. That was good fortune for me, because it was really because the mechanic had forgot to put the put the battery cable on the battery. After we did that, it kept running, but that caused a little bit of question. It's been sitting for a while. There's a few signs of decay, I suppose, and dirt. And the more John looked at it, the less it looked good to him. And I said, "How about 500, John?" And he said, "You don't really want to." And I said, "I know you're not going to make money on this. Like, this is going to be something that you told me you want to get rid of it, and you're trying to clean up the yard. You got some stuff to get out of here. This is one less thing that you'll have to worry about, and you'll have $500 in your pocket." John went to 600. Said, "How about what he said about how about 700?" And I think I said 550. We got to 600, and I probably should have took it right then, because it's not easy to buy a good running car for $600 right now. It's pretty old though, and I knew I was going to have to put some more money into it. So I think that's when I went back to 550, and he said, let me go get the title. Let me see, make sure I got the title available." Well, in between the walk from where we were standing back to his office and looking for the title a little bit, he decided that he'd just sell it to somebody for a demolition derby. So now you know who my competition is. And he was serious. He said, "I could probably get $700 or $800 from somebody that's just going to go crush it in the demolition derby, because it's got a lot of, it's got power, and it'll still do that." So I said, "Hey, you know my number. If you decide you still want to sell it, I'll do the 6. Just give me a call." So I'm trying to talk real life, real answers, as my a company I used to work for, John Hancock, a long time ago, used to say. That was their slogan way back, probably before half you guys were born. Um, that's the story that went right there. That went the exact way it went. And I think that's kind of my negotiating style. I find people expect you to leave. They expect you to try to bring the price down a little bit, unless they say, "I'm firm." If he said $800 firm, I'm not going to take a penny less, I would not. I'd say, "Okay." I'd either say, "Okay, let's do 800." I'd say, I can't do 800 for that. But I'm not gonna. I'm not going to insult you. You said that's your bottom dollar, and I'll walk away. I do find a lot of people will ask me what my bottom dollar is, and I'll say, "I got to get 800," and they immediately offer me 600. Or I say 2,800, and they go, "Well, how about 25?" And I'll just say, "Why did you ask me what my bottom dollar was if you're going to come back with me like that?" But just FYI, people do that all the time. If you're new to this thing, be prepared. Don't let that bother you too much, because that's what they do. So leave a few $100 in padding for when they ask your bottom dollar. I did have somebody today ask me if that's your firm price, and I thought about it, and I said, "Yeah, that is firm. That is firm. Offer me less, and I'm just going to walk away." And that's the next thing I want to talk about before we leave this subject. Walk away. That is one you got to be prepared for. You got to be willing to walk away. Not all the time, but well, maybe all the time. You got to know what your number is, what your situation is, and what you're willing to walk away from. You can't get emotionally locked up on these things. There's always cars coming. There's always deals coming. And it's not a deal. It's not a deal if it's not the deal that makes sense to you. there's usually wiggle room. There's, you know, one of the things I'm factoring in is a profit usually of $1,000 to $1,500, sometimes more, sometimes less. Probably would have been less on that Mercury. And so I've got some wiggle room there, but in your mind, you should say it's not worth it to me to do this for any less than that, and then you got to stick to that. You can't let, you know, emotions get involved there. You got to stick to that. And if you're not getting the deal that you need, shake hands and say, hey, thanks for talking about it. Thanks for considering it, but I can't do that. And then walk away, and truly walk away. And that's what I did with John's situation. I feel like walked away friends and said, hey, if you change your mind, yeah, I think you're offering a fair price, but I can't do the 7 or 8, and I'm not going to enter a demolition derby. So that may be the way to go. And hey, if you can get a couple $100 extra, why wouldn't you do that? Makes perfect sense. And you know, I know a lot of times, a lot of you guys are much more talented at the flipping side as far as turning that thing into, you know, from a rough stone into a diamond than I am. But this is probably my strength is finding deals and making sure that those deals are profitable. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. If you've got something to share as far as other content, or this same kind of content, reach out to me at flippingquestions@gmail.com and tell me your story. Tell me what you'd like to share with the group. I want to encourage all of us to encourage each other. You know, if you're not a member of the car flipping forum yet, you really should join. And then let's get involved with each other. Let's share our stories. Let's share our questions, because this is truly the future of this business. I believe is helping each other learn and listening to each other so that we can learn more. And that's why I set the car flipping forum up, just specifically for that. And we're growing. It's not crazy growth, but it's impressive. I think we'll be over 1,000 members soon, and we are seeing some activity on there. But I would love to see more. It's free to join. Just go to flippinggenius.com, FLIPPINGENIUS.com. If you're watching the video, it's above my head. If you can't see it above my head, that means that you're not watching the video, which is fine. All of our podcasts are available in audio wherever you listen to podcasts, but we are also on Spotify and video, as well as on our own YouTube channel, the Flipping Genius channel. You can go to flippinggenius.com and find all the audio, all the video, our resources page, the link to our car flipping forum, and links to everything else that we do, including some products that we recommend, including links to become a Flipping Genius team member, a flipping partner, flipping champion, which are different levels that we will work with you to try to help you build your business. And would love to have that opportunity. Our fees are very low for that, and we've got some other things coming down the pike, some other subscription ideas. There are some episodes of Flipping Genius on video that are only available to subscribers. And there will probably be more like that type of content coming because, well, frankly, we've got to build some sort of revenue stream around Flipping Genius in order to get our host to want to come on, because our host likes to make money. I am the host, by the way. Hey, I really do appreciate you listening to this episode. I hope some of these things help you. I think it's best for me to share what's boom right in front of me. And if there's something that you'd like to hear more about, again, reach out to me, flippingquestions@gmail.com, or talk to me at the forum. If you've got questions I can answer there, I'd be happy to answer them there. If you want to message me direct, I'm happy to do that. Look forward to hearing from you. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Flipping Genius YouTube channel. We've got to get those numbers up over 1,000. Please save us as a favorite wherever you listen. And if you can give me a 5-star review someplace like Apple, I really appreciate it. Leave me your comments on the videos. Ask me questions on the videos. Share your information wherever you can share it. Everybody, let's benefit each other. Hey, let's work together. Let's make some money. Let's all of us, let's all become flipping geniuses.